It's good to see you, bro. I haven't seen you in so long, though. You know,
it's been quite a few years, yeah.
33 to be precise.
Exactly. That's crazy. It's been that long since we marched. I mean, 33 years is a hell of a long time, and we were 21 at that time too. So yeah.
And that's part of the thing about 87, dude, is it's a weird year. There's my brothers. This is my brothers.
Should I have shaved my head before this?
Yes.
Pretty much.
I didn't get the note.
One of these things is not like the other.
That's right.
You beat nature to the punch, dude. Just gotta do it.
We should just keep going, Ty.
Beat nature to the punch.
All right, dudes, let's start out with this. First thing, I love you guys. So that's the first thing.
Young and strong.
I haven't seen you since 87.
I know. It's crazy.
That's sad, isn't it?
For this, I've kind of been saving a lot of my comments for this thing with us. Through these talks, some of the sections were saying that, man, Santa Clara, you were great, but some of the things that might have kept you back were the snare drums. Every other section we've interviewed has come through with respect. There's not been anything, but there's been some tough questions. There's been some tough things. Listening to those guys and to us, it's a weird thing, guys. If you're on the winning side, anything
they can have the superior position for sure.
Exactly. They have this. They're from the position of power.
I was gonna say it's interesting that we're still talking about this because it has been, for me, an impressionable thing that happened in my life, and it really shaped my life afterward. It was really hard after that season going back to college because I felt that I had reached this dream come true, and it's like, now what do I do with my life? Because I'd worked from like high school on, which was a big chunk of my life to that point, to get into a drum corps. And then my dream was to be in Santa Clara, and then somehow I ended up center snare or whatever, and somehow I ended up in this magical season. So it's like, what do I do from here? It took me years to kind of find my way after that and just like be cool with everything. I like to joke with my friends that know about this that it's probably good that I didn't win because I was insufferable enough as a loser. But to win, I would have been like even more of a jerk.
We are who we are, guys, and I don't. You know, Ty, when we've talked, I regret nothing. I regret absolutely nothing with you guys. MJ, these are my brothers, Sean, Mike, and you know Ty. And this is Mike Jones. He's cadets 83 through 88, I believe.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Take it easy on them, y'all.
How you doing, Ty?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Basically, I started drum corps when I was 12. A corps called the Desert Knights. We were a VFW, Legion sponsored. Tiny, didn't really do much. Went to regionals a couple times. My dream was to march Santa Clara. No one from Tucson had ever made any drum corps ever in the top 12. And here's Sean. The preseason for 87 is I just worked my ass off. My family got so crazy about it that I actually ended up in a van on the street practicing. As I walked in to audition for Alan, Alan said, "You're already on the line. Your audition tape was good enough. You're a walk-on." So that was a fantastic experience for me. I just treasure that to my day. I remember that moment to this day of Alan telling me that I'm already had no damn experience in any top 12 drum corps at all. I had all these gods around me that were auditioning. So that's the short and sweets of how I got from where I was to Vanguard.
Miguel.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town called Hanford, California. It's a little one high school town. My senior year, I went to try out for Valley Fever. They just had a great year in '83. They were really big. They made top 18, I think. They were all Vanguard alumni instructors. So Dale Lofgren, Mike Meeker, J.W. Kester, Myron Rosander. They were all there. I had a video of this audition. Dale asked me to play something on the snare, and I had never played traditional, so I played something match. And it was just a bunch of shitty rim shots and accents and maybe some terrible drag diddles or something. I was around some really good people. A couple went to Blue Devils. Valley Fever was great. Either you went to Blue Devils or Vanguard after Valley Fever. I'm going to age out. I'd really like to go somewhere. And here I am in Santa Clara snare line, and I was very happy. I will be honest. I was hanging on in the winter, but come summertime, I was ready to go, and it was amazing. I wouldn't trade that year. Wouldn't trade the placement for any. Just the fact that we're talking about it 33 years later, and not just us, but hundreds of people. Just like Sean says, I get people all the time. As soon as you say you marched 87 Garfield or 87 Vanguard, you are on a whole new level, and it's humbling because, I really want to say that without Ralph's book, and Alan and Glenn and Kent, those guys kind of cracking the whip on us when they needed to, we could have gone all sorts of ways in '87, but that book was special.
And okay, Ronnie, what about you, man?
Well, just like everyone else, I was a high school star. Section leader. My band director in the summer would take us to drum corps shows like the Riverside Show, and he'd explain to us this is what's going on. Fell in love with it in '81. Phantom toured Spartacus, and it's like, whoa, that's the stuff. So I saw Santa Clara, Blue Devils, Phantom, and Freelancers, all the other corps. Freelancers doing, You Are the Sunshine of My Life up close and stuff. Early season, good. I tried out for Freelancers my senior year, '83. And got cut at the Memorial Day camp. Came back in '84, played snare, along with Dave Hart was in that line too for Freelancers. And it was a good experience. It just wasn't satisfying. I gotta move up. I gotta do something different. So I joined in '86, and I was there early in the season, commuting from Southern California. And then my car blew up. I blew the engine, so I couldn't come up for practices. So I kind of stopped going. And I guess my dream was done. But I got home one day from school, and Bob Calcoffin left a message that basically said, if you want to be in this line, it behooves you to be up here as soon as possible. So I packed my stuff and left like that night or that day without a place to live. Just showed up to practice. Hey, they kind of fit me in the snare line. I started learning the book then. There was a performance, like an exhibition performance coming up at Cal Berkeley. And I remember telling Ralph, yeah, that's cool that we have a performance. I'll sit this one out and see how it goes. And Ralph goes, you're not sitting it out. You better learn the book, dude. So it was trial by fire. I didn't know I was in the line until I was in uniform for the first judge show.
Wow.
Because no one either said you're in or you're out. It's just every practice I was there. There was no one that clicked the switch that said, you're in the line. Ralph anointed me as center snare for Santa Clara, and that was cool, and that was fun, and that was hard. But as with any political appointment, it comes with its complications. And, in one ear is Gail with what he sees as the vision for the drumline. The other ear is Ralph, his vision for the drumline. Alan had some stuff going on, and he was kind of in and out. So if you guys remember, we were on our own a lot. And there was a point when we were trying to do things kind of old school Santa Clara, hardcore, military style. And Ralph was like, let's just be loose. Let's just be free. And at that point, it was just licensed to ill. This drumline, amazing pit, insane bass line, great tenor line, old school cymbals, and then ragtag us. we kind of needed to be like that in order to take what was ours. Remember at the Napa show, the first show, Gail wandered up to us and gave us a speech about being tough. That was a follow-up to a talk he had with me about how he's sick of us being punked by Blue Devils, how they were so mean to us and how they were so rough.
There's a great story that I love to tell people. So Blue Devils just did a four-peat in drums, 83 to 86. So here we are at our first show, and they're reading the scores, and they did some of the captions before the placements, and they say, high horns, BD. I'm like, oh, here we go. High drums, BD. I'm like, yep, it's about right. Second place, BD. And we're like, and then, but what happened was the first 5 shows, we lost.
They beat us in drums. When we won the caption, it was a drum major only retreat. When we won the caption, Dave, Gary, and I started screaming. And Rick South said, "You are not behaving like Santa Clara Vanguard members." And we're like, we just beat Devils in drums.
I don't know if they did this in 86, Ty, but their snare line would get really close to our buses and play after the show, after each win. On that 6th show, when we won,
that would be
we all
Fresno.
went over to watch their drum line, who mysteriously were further away this night. We were vibing hard, and they never beat us in drums again after that.
In 86, after each time Blue Devils beat Santa Clara, a couple of the guys had the Santa Clara snare line shirt. They would burn a hole in a face of a Santa Clara player for each time they beat us. Gail did not like that, so he wanted us to be a little rough and tough. And he admits that things got out of hand, but he was so proud that we were who we were.
It's awesome.
Interesting. Love hearing the backstory. I didn't know a lot of that stuff.
You guys were aware of the dynasty that you were stepping into in terms of the drum thing at Santa Clara?
Yeah, I was a fan. You know, as a high school kid, as a member of Freelancers, huge fan of Santa Clara. And like I said, it was a dream come true that I lived. Huge fan of Ralph. It was like amazing for me to get to work with him. I learned so much from him. But yeah, I was completely aware.
I wish I would have had a little bit more of is just as a rookie, a rook out really, is just some more of the education. I had no idea Alan marched the years that he marched. They played, I mean, that little diddle legato thing that we play in Great Gate, that's from Clowns, and that's a Fred Sanford part that we carried over. I would have loved to have heard that history. They played Dance of the Buffoons in '75.
Yep.
There's things that
we played Vishkinka.
Yeah.
That was insane.
78, 79. And
when he told us we were playing that, I lost my mind.
Yeah. And I had a friend who marched the 78 line, and he showed me the backsticking part that they played, and I was like, good Lord, there's no way we could have done that. It was amazing. It was all match grip, but it was a crazy cool part. And I was like, that's really sweet. It was awesome.
I didn't understand coming in the big deal that it was to be, you know, I was just like, oh, Santa Clara, they're really good. I mainly came to Santa Clara because of Ralph. And, you know, I knew Santa Clara was Santa Clara, but it was because of Ralph and the stuff that he was doing and the books that he was writing. Some of these other things, they talk about Hannum's book, and I mentioned this SATB thing, but man, Ralph's book that year was incredible.
But 87 was special for him, and he told me this, that he was really excited to have you, me, Iroll, Sean, Bruce in the line. He's like, this is what I've been wanting this to look like for a long time. Yeah. And then we had like Gilster, we had like Chico, you know, Ephraim the year before. He was cognizant of that and very proud of that. He didn't let someone in who was an inferior performer just to get that sort of diversity, but he was able to attract that level of diversity and, in a sense, maintain it for a while. So he was really excited how diverse that line was in 87. It was intentional, it was cognizant. I don't know if it was as cognizant to Gail or the other staff members, but it was certainly something Ralph was aware of.
I mean, Glenn didn't like the messing around, but I mean, as far as technique and stuff, I think we got things figured out. But yeah, Glenn was not going to let us mess around, and I know after 87 he stayed around, and there was no messing around in 88, 89, and those other years he stayed.
But Glenn was also able to appreciate us as adults. Because when he first came, it was like, oh, he's going to whip you guys into shape. You're not going to be able to mess around. And remember, the first day he came, he just observed us in the morning session. It was a 9 to 9. We went to lunch, and he said, no one better be late coming back. Well, I happened to go with Dave Gary, who locked his keys in his car. So we had to walk back. So we were both really late. This is like center snare and like one of the lead tenors. And he's like, where were you guys? And we just giggled, and he just kind of shook his head, and like, he realized that he was able to adapt really quickly. Okay, I have personalities of talented kids to deal with. I'm not going to beat their asses. I'm going to work with them, and it's going to make it work. So I give him all the credit in the world for fixing what could have been a 6-place drum line.
And now, the decision
across the United States, you had to understand where is Garfield and where is Vanguard, and they are, you know, they might not ever meet until finals night, but finals night they have to have numbers that are at least respectably close to each other in order to justify something on a piece of paper.
Let's just ask you right here. We're going for the big question of this.
Okay, I'm scared about this.
Perfect score in 87. What are your thoughts on the perfect score?
It took me many, many years to even watch Garfield's show. I refused to watch their show.
The show was dope, though.
Oh, God, it was a fantastic show.
The show was great.
Do I think it was a perfect show? Personally, I just heard stories about things that happened during the show that would make it less than perfect. That's not me personally hearing this. I know my family, who are all drum corps veterans for years and years and years, were all in the stands, and they said when they watched our show, they thought it was fantastic, but when they watched Garfield's show, they said, uh-oh, Garfield's going to win.
Yeah. I knew Garfield was going to win 2 weeks before.
Well, I just know they said, you know, we did a fantastic job all the way through the season, but once they saw Garfield's show, they knew that was it. We were magical ourselves, but they were just a level above.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I props to you, Michael, and your crew. You guys were fantastic. You guys are always the consummate professionals who kick ass every single freaking year. So, I just said, it took me years to accept that, years not to be pissed off about it. Sometimes it still gives me, I think about this. I had a twin in Blue Devils, 6. If I won in 87, twin rings, twin, fucking fantastic. Yeah. You took that from me, you bastard. But
I think the mentality of a drummer in particular is that perfection is impossible.
The only issue I had with the perfect score was there was still a core to go. What if they were better?
like the Blue Devils were going to come out that night and play this amazing show and
I
win.
know you guys are great, but were they trying to make a point by giving you guys that perfect score?
We knew we were not perfect, but we were really good. And so it was really hard for us to swallow that anybody could actually achieve perfection in that activity.
I've talked to judges, and they said they had no idea what the other judges were going to do. So they just, 3 judges. They just judge from their subcaption.
Here's my thing about the perfect score. I didn't mind. I mean, it was hard. I don't mind losing drums. I didn't mind losing champions. I think the
half a point,
first and second drum line scores, a half a point is just crazy.
And the high drum award presented by Masani Yanagasama of Pearl Industries goes to
You never see that, and so that was the hardest thing to swallow.
At the time, you're just kind of going, no way, what's going? There's 3 guys, the same. It was very, very hard to swallow for us.
I was so confused by that. Like,
Yeah,
what do you
it was
mean?
really-
Because
it was
that
really-
doesn't happen.
No, I know, but looking back on recaps and everything else, you guys beat us on drums at every show. So and I know Ty might remember this. So the night of finals, we're on the field and the scores were announced. Well, we didn't know what had happened with captions yet, and there's this rumbling to my left, and so you guys are on my left, and then on your left is BD on the field. All of a sudden, Catherine Float comes storming through your guys' block, and somebody tries to stop her, and she just shoves him right out of the way, and she comes over and tells us about the perfect score. That hurt. I think we got so happy by beating BD, we didn't watch our ass. You guys crept up, and then that last show was rained out. And we didn't know how to lose. The night at semis when we lost, it was a rain out, so there was no retreat. We're like, oh, we'll get them tomorrow. And so when the scores were announced, of course we were sore losers. We had never lost.
I think it really, really took the mystique out of the pursuit of perfection for a lot of the guys in the line as well.
After prelims, it was less sore losers and more confused. Like, we didn't win.
Is I remember one time, usually we would be the last ones off the rehearsal field or whatever. And I remember one time, for whatever reason, Ralph let us go early, and we put our drums in the truck, and the horn line was still arced up doing their thing. And so I came and I sat in the middle of the horn line.
That's amazing.
And I heard our horn line in the entire show, and I hummed my parts in my head and saw how that worked. And I heard our horn line play with 10 fucking contras. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
And I was like, there is absolutely no way that there's any horn line better than ours. And the same core as this horn line, so there's no better drum line than ours. And this color guard is in, it was maybe the wrong additive property or whatever. Maybe my math was wrong, but I just did not see how anybody could be any better. I didn't see how Tom Onks or Tom Float or Tom Hannum could write any better parts than what Ralph wrote. It's just impossible to my head. And so the reaction of me at retreat was that, like, what?
I get it.
And perfect.
I remember when the judges came around and shook our hands to congratulate us. We didn't know what the score was at that point. We just knew we had lost by a 10th.
Can you imagine if we did? It would have been ugly.
No, it would have been so ugly.
I never knew for years that they won every show in drums over us. Every show they saw us, they beat us in drums. So
we never got over the hump.
Nobody ever brought that up. Nobody ever brought that up to us at practice. I think that would have maybe motivated us a little bit. I personally think I've learned a lot more by losing that night than winning, and it's helped me.
Yep. I think you nailed it with the Blue Devils thing, because that was Gail's early focus too. We got to get past the Blue Devils. No one saw Garfield coming out because they had a slow start to the season, and then they steadily improved until they had this dynamite production.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I saw them, first time I heard them was Retreat at Whitewater. And I remember thinking, when they played to us, I remember thinking, oh, they're good. First time I saw them was at their home show, and it verified how good they were because I saw them on the field. And it was like, I don't know what's going to happen. It took me years just going through my head where we could have pulled off one more 10th. Where was that 10th?
That 10th was impossible because they were sending a message. To lose in drums by a half a point, somebody was trying to say stuff.
Well, and that was what Gail was getting at when he told us we're not going to win.
Over the years by people I know, that was an interesting take on that night. Was it was weird in the judging area. We had a 4/10 lead in GE.
Yeah. That
Dan Smith gave us.
Okay.
It took a 5/10 spread in drums to give them that 1/10. Dan Smith was never judged finals again after that night. I will argue that we should have never been 4/10 above Garfield and GE just by show alone, but
yeah, it's a big spread.
It should have also not been 5/10 ahead in drums. Retreat was painful just because
it was brutal.
We were kind of sore losers, and it wasn't a disrespect to Garfield, but to me, looking back on it, it was the last time we were going to play together. It was the last time we were going to get to play that book, and we purposely played it like crap, and that kind of hurt to me. So
we were young, dude. 21. Some people were much younger. I mean, what was Cornbread during that year? 16. And probably, for the last 25 years or so. It's irrelevant whether we won or not. Very influential to a lot of us. I joke about it's better that I came in second place, but I think I learned a lot. You're not going to win everything in life. I came from a very successful music program in high school. We did a lot of winning. And, it was frustrating in freelancers to not win. But it was more frustrating to play like mediocre stuff with people that didn't want to be better. And, it was a test for me to see if I could make Santa Clara, which I did. And it was a test for me to see how good I can become. And the whole center snare thing was complete surprise. One doesn't get a lot of opportunities in life to participate in something at that level.
Yeah, we didn't know how to lose, and we sucked at losing. We hated losing. We still do, but man,
we sucked at losing, man.
Yeah, we were not good at it. We were good at winning, and so that heartache it stayed with us for a long time. But like I said, and I think Ty and others agree, is I learned a lot from that year, and I take those lessons about losing and keeping an eye over my shoulder for anybody, because in any job or any interview, it's the people that prepare and practice and work that are going to sneak up on you and take it from you. And you guys did that night, so I mean, good for you. But we didn't lose it by a point. It was
not
close.
trade being in the lineage of the Santa Clara Vanguard for anything.
No, that's important to me.
It's huge. Like, and one of the things that I say is like, people who know drum corps, and they're like, oh, you marched drum corps? Yeah, who'd you march with? I marched with whatever Blue Devils. I marched with whatever Cadets. You could say I marched with any year of Santa Clara, and it's like, okay, even if they finish 7th, it's you marched in the Santa Clara Vanguard, and we're part of that lineage.
Yeah.
The thing that MJ and I can't come to terms with is we lost. The whole reason I did this thing was to win. In second place, you always have that question of what did we not do to win? And the fact that we didn't win, I can't reconcile that. I can't reconcile that anyone was better.
Dude, it's the same, because in freelancers, we were 8th in prelims, 9th in finals. Same feeling, dude. you're still trying to. I mean, we were competing for 8th place at the end of '84, and we got 9th.
I think it's like 38 minutes or whatever.
What were your thoughts?
I understood the disappointment and the anger of your snare line, James, and Devil's as well. I understand that. Kind of what I touched on earlier. So I understand it, and I got to think. I don't know what I would have done in that situation if I was in.
I think what I would say is that, and I don't know if I thought this way in 1987, but certainly by the end, I marched 87, 88, 89, and 90. I thought, well, if I don't think the judges are right when I lose, how could I think the judges are right when I win?
Two great corps, two amazing performances, one unforgettable night. 30 after 30, the most talked about.